be intentional, right?
Okay.
With what we talked about. Because do you ever get tired of answering the same questions?
I do.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Honey, do.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. So I wanted to make sure that I tried to do something a little different, just the difference. So let me give you a little background. So Unstuck, this is the 7th Unstuck. Yes, thank y'all. Thank you. And I started Unstuck because I was stuck at one point in time. And when God kind of took me through a process, I realized that there's probably other women in similar positions. And so maybe I could create an atmosphere where women could come together and get unstuck mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Because what I've discovered as a pastor is a lot of times we put a lot of attention on our spirit. And I told them, but the rest of our life is raggedy. And God don't deal in raggedy. You know what I'm saying? He wants us to glorify him in everything. So we've been having an amazing time, have we not? We've been having an amazing time. And we've talked about a lot of different things. What we wanted to talk to you about and kind of explore a little bit is your journey and the emotional element of your journey. Because you've been on a journey.
Yeah.
You've been still on it. Yeah. And it's been really amazing. And the good thing is people have had the opportunity to see the out front portion, but there's a behind the scene journey that happened before you ever arrived on the scene. So tell us a little bit about what happened prior to Whole Foods. Because you know how people think you just arrived?
Yeah.
Tell us a little
They
bit
be like,
about
oh, Lord,
emotionally what that was
overnight
like.
success that took 24 years
That
instead of
part.
24 hours.
That part.
Lord, where do I begin? Well, I mean, I grew up, I'm from Eden, North Carolina, very small town. And I grew up always wanting to perform, right? Always wanting to be an actor. I used to watch the Cosby Show as a kid, and I would see Rudy, and I told my mom I want to be her best friend. I want to be Rudy's friend and ring the doorbell next.
Right.
And she thought I wanted to just be Rudy's friend. I was like, but no, only in the TV.
In the TV.
And so she said, oh, that means you want to be an actress. And so I spent all of my childhood trying to figure out how to become this word actress, right? And so I did, school theater and community theater, church theater, wherever I could perform, because I'm from a very small town. There weren't many options. That's all we had. We had church, we had community, and you had school. And I also started making clothes in high school, right? So my great-great
You were making them?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I don't know if they still have like home economic classes where they teach you how to sew and stuff. They don't do it no more, do they? Because, but honey, I had that class, but I also had a great-great aunt. Who could not hear or talk, but she was the town seamstress. And so my Aunt Bet. And so all the summers I would be in there with her, watching her make clothes and do hair. She did everybody's hair and she made everybody's clothes.
God.
And so I observed that as a kid, which is also, I do hair as well. And so I started making my own clothes, in high school. So when it was time to go to college, my mama was like, listen, I know you want to be an actress, but we don't know any actors. She wasn't trying to discourage me. She was just telling me what she knew.
Right.
She was like, maybe you go to school for fashion design, so you'll have something to fall back on, and that can help you, afford to pursue your acting.
Old school always want you to have that steady.
They always listen.
Plan B.
Yeah, because, that's how we were created amongst that time, Not created, but somebody else did that. And so I was like, well, all right, I think that's a good idea. So I went to school for fashion at International Fine Arts in Miami. Okay. And so when I got down there, and everything was good, honey, but I was like a fish out of water. I'm coming from the country down to Miami. I was like, Lord, these people black, but they don't speak English, Jesus. Because we didn't even have anything other than black and white in my town when I was growing up. I saw my first Hispanic person when I was a senior in high school.
Really?
So other than being on stuff that you see on TV, honey, it was gray is what I used to call it, black and white. And so I went down there. It was great. I was like, okay, I'm having the time of my life. The classes were fun, all the things. But I remember waking up one night in the middle of the night, and all I could think about was performing. And I called my dad. It was a Wednesday night. And I'm a daddy's girl, for those that don't know and have not heard this story. I called my dad and I said, Daddy, listen, I'm wasting your money. You need to come down here and get me, honey. I'm supposed to be an actress. Right? My daddy worked for 48 years at the mill, honey, and I seen how hard my daddy worked. I didn't want to waste his money. And I also didn't want to waste time. At an early age, that was a thing for me. And so he said, all right, I'll be down there Saturday to pick you up. And so, listen, I'm a daddy's girl. He ain't trying to talk me out of it or nothing, okay?
Listen, because this was his money.
Right. And also, I've always been very sure in certain things. And if I'm going to tell you something, I mean it, you know? And so he came and got me. And so I remember when he picked me up, I told him, I said, Daddy, listen, I know I'm quitting school. I said, but I promise you one day I'm going to be famous. And then I'll do a whole, like, clothing line and things, right? And he was like, all right, you know. And so I got back to Eden, and I was stuck, all right? I was there, and I was like, Lord, how am I going to get to this acting thing? I got to figure it out. So I applied to Columbia College in Chicago. It's a performing arts school. Me and my mama flew out there in the spring. That's how Chicago gets you. You come, yeah.
They from Chicago right here. They from Chicago.
Spring, and you like, this is a beautiful city. The sun is shining. This is nice. I don't know what people talking about. And so, right, fell in love with it. And so I got accepted, and when it was time to go, you know, I worked all summer, saving up my little money and things. 2 weeks before it was time to go to school in Chicago, I got a letter saying, unfortunately, due to your outstanding financial aid that I had at the school in Miami, they could not approve my financial aid for this school.
That's how they do it.
And my dad ain't had no more money, okay? My mom and them, they ain't had no money. I said, oh, Lord. So I couldn't go. So I said, what am I going to do now? I'm still, you know, I have this burning desire to perform. And my mama had knew somebody that lived in California. She didn't really know them, but, you know, she knew somebody who knew somebody. And they had told her if I wanted to come out there, I could rent a room. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to Hollywood, right? And so, and I don't need no plan. I'm just going. Because I got a dream, okay? And so I went out there, and I was not in Hollywood, okay? I was not far from here. I was down in Orange County. In Laguna Niguel. It was beautiful, okay? But it was not LA. It was not Hollywood. And so I was renting this room out, and the lady, she forgot to tell mama she was a little bit crazy. She didn't tell her. She didn't, yeah.
You know, crazy people usually don't
tell
you that.
Yeah, they don't tell that part.
I
said, okay, God bless her, but she didn't say that part. And so it was a little rough, right? And so my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, we had a plan. He was going to come out, and then we was going to, you know, move and get our own place, right? I didn't tell him how bad it was. So when he came out here, he was like, oh, Tab, now this is crazy.
This ain't it. This ain't it.
Yeah, I was working 2 jobs. You know, she was pretty much taking all my money. And so I'm 19. You know, I don't know.
You don't know.
And so he was like, let's save up and let's move back to North Carolina. And we'll stay there for 1 year because it's cheaper. He was like, and we'll save up our money, and then we'll move to LA so you can really pursue your dream.
How long did 1 year turn?
And that 1 year turned into 5 years, right? It turned into 5 years. It turned into a baby. It turned into marriage. It turned into multiple jobs, multiple responsibilities.
How'd you feel during that process, that 5 years?
Well, it turned into a forgotten dream.
Got it.
Right? I convinced myself because I got pregnant. So I said, I didn't had a baby now, so I can't dream. I can't have that acting dream anymore. Because when you're from a small town and you have a baby, honey, they expect you to get married. Honey, y'all got jobs, get y'all a little house and got y'all's cars, honey, and y'all go to church every Sunday.
And that's life.
And that's very good.
That's life.
Okay? And that's what we was doing.
Right.
And I had become content with that. And I had convinced myself that it was all right.
Yeah. And
I remember it felt like a earthquake hit Greensboro, North Carolina, and I woke up and I felt my bed shake. It's like it shook me awake, and my skin felt like it was going to fall off. It was burning so bad.
God.
And I heard a voice, and it sounded like thunder. And the voice said, "This is not the life I planned for you." And I got scared, and so I got on my knees and I started praying. I said, "Now, Lord, if this is you speaking to me, I'm gonna need you to show me a sign today, because if not, I'm gonna tell my husband go on and take me to the hospital." This is a true story, okay? This is a true story. And so later that day, I told my husband what happened, and I think he did think, "Babe, you all right?"
He started the car.
Yeah. And so I said, but it's all right, because I didn't pray, and I told the Lord to show me a sign today. And he was like, all right, Tab.
So wait, was he a Christian at this point in time?
Yeah, so me and Chance, he didn't grow up in the church. I did, right? And so his introduction to God was me. Right, and you know, you was with me, so you gonna have to go to church, because my dad and my granny and them, they looking at you like, what you doing, okay? And so that was his introduction. So, but he still was learning.
Okay.
And this was a whole different experience, though. Now, you
Yeah,
go
that's
to
why I was
church.
asking, because if
Yeah.
he's not in it, you come
Yeah.
talking about the earth shook
Right.
and
But see, the thing about being in it is most people can be in church, but they not in this.
this part right here, we know to be true.
Right. They not into the spirit.
Right.
They don't. They going by what they were taught, not what was deposited.
Right.
Okay.
Agreed.
And so, although he was being taught and going to church, he didn't understand that I heard a voice.
Right.
And so later that day, we were on our way to the mall. And on the radio, the local DJ, his name was Buster Brown. He had the biggest radio show in okay, somebody, okay. Yeah. All right, somebody in North Carolina in here. Okay, very good. Came on the radio and said, hey, this is Buster Brown. I got a new TV show on the WB network, and I'm holding auditions looking for a female co-host.
On the same day?
On the same day.
Come on, Jesus.
Baby, I almost bust the windows out the car. I was like, oh, Lord. That's my sign. I done prayed and the Lord has answered, because never, ever was there any auditions in North Carolina, in Greensboro. So I told Chance, I said, that's my sign. I got to go to that audition. And so I ended up going to that audition, and I booked that job.
Come on.
Right? And so that started me dreaming again. So I was the co-host of the show. I was like a rolling correspondent where I would go and interview all the celebrities when they came to town for concerts or events or whatever. And so after I started doing that, I was like, you know what? I want to do theater again. So I started doing theater, and then I was like, you know what? I need to get on some sets, some movie and TV stuff. So I started driving 2.5 hours to Wilmington, North Carolina to do extra work on One Tree Hill, right? And so I was like, I need to know what it's like to be on a big set, because one day I'm going to be doing this type of thing, right? So I did all of this for about a good year. And then I told Chance, I said, okay, now it's time to move back to LA. And he was like, oh, no, babe, we can't do that. So you doing good here, babe. You got the Buster Brown show thing you doing your theater and stuff. He said, because you forgot we got these babies right here. I said, yeah, but the Lord, I didn't heard the Lord's voice. And so I'm going to have to go out there and see what he is calling me to do, you know. And he was like, no. I was like, well, look, I can go and come back and be bi-coastal. In my mind, I don't know what money I thought I had, okay? He was like, well, no, we're not going to do that, so let's plan it. And so we saved up for about 8 months, and we had, I think, like $8,000, and we moved to California to pursue my acting career, to, my dreams.
Now, what made him eventually say yes, though?
When I told him I'll go by myself and stay out there.
Oh, that was the trigger.
Yeah,
Okay,
he was like, yeah, no.
Because you were going.
Yeah, you ain't. Yeah, I was gonna
'Cause
go.
you was going.
Yeah, I was
just
going.
checking.
Because
Just checking.
when this thing come over you and you can't deny it, and you can't shake it off, and it's bothering you so bad, you thinking about it more than 2 and 3 times a day. It's just like it's a nagging. Yeah. That's God. That's him saying, I need you to do this thing, and he pushing you, and he'll do it to a point to make you uncomfortable. Right. And so that's where I was at. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I gotta do it. Yeah. And when you have heard this voice, you think when you get to where he is telling you to go, honey, they waiting on you. Poof. Baby, they want nobody waiting. Nobody was waiting. Okay. We got to LA in 2004, and I got a job at Macy's. And so, but it was all right, because it was in Century City, right? And it was by the Avenue of the Stars. Yep. And so on my lunch break, I would walk around, and I would look at CAA, that's the agency. And I said, oh, God, one day they're going to call for me from this building, Lord. Yeah. I would just point to it and be like, oh, God, one day they're going to call. They're going to call for me one day, right? I never forget, one day I went to lunch, and Bank of America is right there too, And John Singleton had a brand new Mercedes, and he couldn't figure out how to get his doors unlocked. And I was walking, and he said, hey, excuse me. And I was like, Lord, John Singleton talking to me, Jesus. He said, you know how to open these doors? I said, I drive a Honda. I don't know, sir. I don't know. I said, but one day maybe I'll see you on set, because I'm an actor. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm trying to get this door. Right? But to me, I used to look at little things like that, and I was like, ooh, it's a sign. It's a sign, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What's the difference between having a goal and this dream?
Well, a goal is something you set.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, a goal is something that you set. A dream is something that is deposited inside of you.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. I didn't make it up. Yep. Remember, I ain't know no actors. Right. My mom and them, ain't nobody in our family. My daddy would tell you to this day, girl, I don't know where you came from. He'd be like, I don't know how you got this desire. You always been this way. I was born with it inside of me. right? And so, but anywho, after, right, because see, I get to talking. So after that.
So you're working at Macy's?
I'm working at Macy's, and within months of living in LA, I got a call from my mama, and she had been diagnosed with ALS. It's a terminal disease, right? And my world stopped.
Yes.
And I said, well, you get one mama. And I had an amazing mama, right? And so I had to go back home. And I went back and forth for 3 years to help take care of my mama until she passed away.
Okay.
And so during that time is when I learned about life in a different way.
How so?
I watched my mom. My mom was a social worker. She was also a pastor. And
Pause. Your mama was a pastor?
she was later in her life.
Get out of here.
Yes, because see, when I was growing up as a kid, we didn't go to church with her, but she dropped me off, and I had to go with my granny every Sunday. You know, my mom and dad, they dropped us off, but they didn't go until I was in 5th grade, and then they started going to church. That's a whole different story.
Real
but
quickly,
yeah.
though, how was that received? Because you know I'm a female pastor, so that just triggers me just a little bit, not in a negative way, positively. How was that received in your small town?
That she was a pastor?
Yeah.
Well, this was, when she became a pastor, it was later in life, right? And so there was, in my church, now, when I grew up, let's be clear. My granny was Pentecostal, okay? So if granny had still been alive when mom wouldn't, to start preaching, my granny would have been like, you ain't did nothing. This is real life, right?
Yep.
When the first time I ever felt the Holy Spirit, right, and got to shouting, I remember it was 6th grade. It was a revival at a little church called Shiloh Baptist Church. And I could not wait to tell my granny that I got to shout. Right? Because it took over. I couldn't control my body. Yep. I was like, oh my God, this is the Holy Ghost. And I had to, it was like a Wednesday night. And a lot of stuff happened on Wednesdays, Jesus. But that Sunday, when we went to church, after church, we'd always go to my granny's house and eat. I had waited days to tell my granny. Got to granny house, I said, Granny, you ain't gonna believe it, Granny. At the revival on Wednesday, I caught the Holy Ghost. She said, where? I said, at Shiloh Baptist. She said, ain't no Holy Ghost, ain't no Baptist church.
Baptist church?
And meant it with her whole heart. Do you hear me?
Yep.
She said, they got carpet in that church. Ain't no Holy Ghost with no carpet. How in the world? But this is how she thought, right? That, honey, that holiness, baby. If you want that, then you want nothing, right? And so you out there playing. That's what you was doing. That's what she said, right? So anyway, but when we started going to the Baptist church, I went to Mount Hermon Baptist. That's where I got baptized and all the things with my mom and daddy. We had a female. She wasn't our head, pastor, but she was, she was there with our pastor, so Pastor Johnson. And so when my mama, got called, it wasn't like a shock for it.
It wasn't out of the ordinary.
It wasn't out of the ordinary back then.
God. I was just curious because female pastors.
But growing up, depending on where you was at, you was definitely looked at sideways.
And still now, every now and again.
Yeah, well, God bless them.
Yeah.
Okay, honey, listen, may the Lord watch between me and thee. Okay.
While we're absent,
one from another. Okay, you can't even fool with that foolishness, right?
I'm with you.
See, because that's what people were taught. It wasn't what was deposited.
Absolutely.
See the difference?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you go back and forth to take care of your mama, and then she passed away.
She passes away. And during that time, I just learned about how precious life is, right? But also how short it is.
Yeah.
And how we all have a purpose in your life, right? And so I truly believe my mama was an angel, right, that I got to encounter. As much as she was my mama, today is actually 16 years that my mom passed away today. September 30th, yes. And so I was like, ooh, something good is going to happen today, okay?
Amen.
Yes. But I just remember thinking kindness and patience and grace. I saw my mama go from being this amazing woman who wore high heels every day and was, had her red lipstick and nails done. Like, she was just very, fancy, to not being able to feed herself, care for herself, not being able to walk or talk, and being completely trapped inside of her body with no movement other than her eyes and a very small amount of movement in her lips, right? And never one time did she complain. And And I remember in her last days of life, because my mother passed away twice, right? So September 14th of '06, she coded, they pronounced her, and she came back. And when she came back, I always said that next year was for me. And when she passed on her final time, she told us when she was going home.
Okay.
Right? And so that Friday, I had went home to visit my mama, but we was coming home for my high school reunion. And it just so happened that weekend was the same weekend that she ended up passing. But she was in the hospital. She had just went into the hospital that Wednesday. Come on, Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we got there that Thursday. And so I spent the night at the hospital with her. She had got pneumonia. So but anybody who doesn't know what ALS is, it's a neuromuscular disease, and it literally makes your muscles pretty much go to sleep, right? So the brain can't have that activity anymore to tell it what to do. And so she could not move or talk. So we'd have to read her lips, and we'd have to move her body for her. And so that Friday morning, I woke up, in the hospital, and she looked at me, and she said, she motioned with her lips, "I'm going home Sunday." And I said, "Oh, did the doctor come in here and say that you're going to be able to go home on Sunday?" And she said, "No, I'm going home on Sunday." She looked up, and I said, "Oh." And I had power of attorney on my mama. And so she had been on a ventilator for 1 year. And she said, "I want to be taken off. It's time." And so I was like, "Are you sure, Mama? Because you all right." Other than she was like, it's time, right? So when the doctors came, I told them what she said, and they said, "Okay, well, we suggest that no one be in the room because she has ALS, she only has one barely functioning lung, and her body is just not strong enough, so it's not going to be a nice scene to see." She's going, they explained that they painted this terrible picture, and while they talking, she rolling her eyes, honey. She was like, So she told us she wanted all her family in the room, right? So that Saturday morning, she told me to call all her friends. She said, "Tell anybody they want to come see me, they better come see me because I'm going home on Sunday." And so on Saturday, her friends came, and she had 3 friends that she loved dearly, and she asked us to, get on each side, and she said to raise her arms up. And I thought, oh, she want to stretch because her body would ache. Of course, she wanted to give praise, right? So she wanted us to hold her hands up.
Yes, indeed.
These are the things that were left with me and what changed how I saw the world and my relationship with God, right? And after she passed away, it was such, it felt like something came inside of me, right? We were all there together. You let my husband tell, he said, "You started talking in a different language when your mama passed." And I said, what do you mean? He said, "You kind of blanked out for a little bit, and you was talking, couldn't nobody understand you." And I said, "Like, was I speaking in tongues?" He said, "It didn't sound like tongues, but we couldn't understand it." And I said, "Well, all right." He was like, "But it was like you was communicating." And I felt a difference inside of me. So I always felt like she just left something with me. And so I went on this journey after that, and I had this mission. I was like, I gotta pursue this dream that's inside. I gotta make it. Like, in honor of my mama, I gotta go and take every role I can and do it. So I started. This when Blockbuster was a thing. I got back to LA, honey. I was just full force. I did a bunch of movies that went straight to DVD. Honey, someday I'd be like, "Lord, please don't let nobody see the movies, Jesus." But I also was just doing whatever I could. Right. I was a artist who was just excited to work, but I still didn't really have my direction. Got it. I was just like, I got this thing inside, and I want to do it. And I did. I had a lot of small victories, as I call them. I did a lot of movies and TV commercials, music videos, you name it, honey. I did it, and then I ended up taking a little break to have a baby, and then I got sick. I got sick myself in 2016, right? And I thought when I first got sick, things got so bad because I had this headache in the back of my head, but I started to fall when I would walk, and my legs would go numb. I thought I had ALS. Whenever you have a parent or somebody in your family that goes through a sickness, it's very easy to attach that to yourself, right? And we start to feel like, oh, they got it, so I'm gonna get it.
Can you say more about that? We had a we had a pajama party last night.
Oh, right.
After the session was over, and a lot of conversation about mothers came up, where there was abandonment or mothers passing away or relationships that were bruised where unforgiveness was present. My mother has dementia, and so she feisty too. She done had 3 fights at the memory care facility. Yes,
I used to work at one of those, so I understand.
Because she don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this whole concept of motherhood and when your mom is no longer available, how did that impact you in the journey of this dream? When this mom who believed in you was no longer present, deposited something in you, but there's still that you want to call her. You want her to see the
till
stuff.
this day.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't change.
Right.
So many great accomplishments I've had. I'm so grateful for. Right. And I'm a daddy's girl. So I call my daddy. There's always a feeling like I didn't call somebody, and it's my mama. Right. There's still times where I'm just so excited about something, or I'm extremely sad that I still pick the phone up. I still have that moment, and I realize like I can't do that. Right.
How do you get through those moments?
Different ways, right? There's sometimes that I sit in it.
Okay.
Right, and because I think that's important, because a lot of times I think sometimes we think to get through something there has to be a thing that we do, but sometimes you just got to sit in it. You got to acknowledge that I'm not well in this moment, because there's something about being a motherless mother, right, and a motherless child, right, and me being a mama, I felt like I needed my mama to help me be a mama. You know, my daughter was 6 when my mama passed, and my daddy can't help me the way that my mama could. You know, I'm grateful that God has given me friends along the way, like Karen right there. I would have moments where I needed somebody who has done this before, and then there'd be those times where it's like, I just want to know if I'm all right. You know, when you are in a journey that your mama has already been through, sometimes you just want to know, like, Mama, am I supposed to feel like this? You know, and you have, you know, your partner, your husband, he don't understand it.
Agreed.
Right? And it was very hard for me and him during that time, because I would be angry some days because I'm like, you don't get it, and you don't care enough. Maybe we get right upset about that thing, because then also we're not giving grace to people who don't understand. So I had to learn that too. So, but then there's sometimes that I'm blessed. I call my sister. You know, she looked just like my mama.
I saw her
in a scary way. Some days I'm like, girl, don't look at me like that. I'm like, Tasha, girl, you looking just like mama right now. But those are the moments that you have, and then sometimes you just embrace them. You know, I do, and you know, a lot of people, my whole life, and I've talked about this openly from the time I was a little girl, I've always had vivid dreams and the gift of dreaming. And people who I had never met before in my life would come to me in dreams as a child, and I wake up and tell my mama, such and such, do you know? And she's like, girl, that person been gone for 20, you don't know that person. I'm like, I saw them in my dream and they told me this. And she'd be like, there's no way for you to know that. That has been my entire life. So some days I'll see my mama in my dreams, and she'll tell me, my mama told me when I was gonna have my son, right? Before she passed away, she told me my life would be the life I have now, right?
Come on, Jesus.
She said, God has shown me your life. She wouldn't give me details. And I was like, well, girl, what is it? She was like, I can't tell you. She said, but what I can tell you, before any of it happens, you will have had a son. I said, oh, I'm not having no more kids, Mama. That medicine they got you on, girl. You know, because we had the 2 girls. And, you know, I had a daughter, but Chance had already had a daughter in high school, right? And we were struggling. We were like, we are good. We ain't having no more babies. And, of course, in a dream, she came to me, and she was pinching my cheeks like you would pinch a baby. And she kept saying 7 to 11. And I said, 7 to 11? And she said, you know. And I said, I don't know, Mama, what is 7 to 11? And she just kept doing it, and we were in the basement of the house I grew up in the dream. And so I woke up, and I said, 7 to 11. Girl, I played the number. I ain't going to lie to you. Now, I played the lottery. I played 7 to 11 at every 7-Eleven I could go to for about 6 months, every day. Every day I was like, let me put this, put it in there, right?
I might play it tomorrow.
Listen, I'm trying to tell you.
On Wednesday.
Wednesday. That's what I should have did, girl. I should have played it on the Wednesday. But I played that number so much, and it never hit, right? The next year, the day I found out I was pregnant was July 2nd, 2011. I said, well, Mama, you should have been more clear about it, girl, right? But those are the type of dreams that I've always had. And so that's just been my whole life. And it's also kind of like, the things that give me comfort. Yeah. But I do understand that everybody doesn't have that gift, right? But sometimes it does happen that way. Yeah. And it helps and, gives comfort, so.
Do you think that flows into the prophetic from time to time in terms of God calling you to share something?
Oh, absolutely. Somebody? Yeah, because I also, they would call a seer, right? I can see things while I'm awake. I always tell people I see a lot more when I'm asleep, but I do see when I'm awake, things that nobody else sees. Sometimes I hear things, it feels like a hummingbird is by my ear, and it's a whisper, right? And those are the times where I know, okay, Lord, this is something I need to share. Because I also have understood when you work with a gift that is in you, when you don't, when you're not obedient to it, for me, I get sick. Got it. Right? I don't feel well. When God gives me a clear message for somebody and I don't do it, baby, you ain't gonna do nothing then.
Listen, I know.
He'll lay me down.
I know.
Yeah.
But don't you hate when he gives it to you and it's not necessarily positive?
Listen, that's what made me be so afraid.
That's what I'm saying.
To be a messenger for a very long time. To be I hated to be the bearer of bad news, right? I had a mentor, a pastor who mentored me in my gift. And I unfortunately had to tell him some bad news about his family. And after that, his wife stopped speaking to me, right? And it hurt my heart so bad because it's not something I can control, right? They had been trying to have a baby for a long time. They had one, but then they were trying to have another one. And they ended up getting pregnant. And I had a dream, and I saw that she lost the baby. And so I told him, but when I woke up, I heard a voice say, they will have a son. It's just not the way that they intend. And she was still very early on, but I told him, and about a month or so later, she lost the baby. And they stopped speaking to me altogether. He kind of trickled off later. And that put me in this place where I was so very afraid to share because I also didn't want to be hated. Right. And you also don't want to be known as crazy. Right. This is the truth. Yep. That was my, as a child, I got caught teased a lot, right? Because, I would be this little girl at school raising my hand and saying what I had a dream about. Yeah, and my teacher would be like, all right, Tabitha. And the other kids were like, girl, that's weird. Like, that's crazy, right? So I learned to kind of be quiet. I even tried to pray it away. I remember saying, God, please take this away from me. I don't want it, But now, in this freedom that I live in. Yes. I'm all right with it. Talk
a little bit more about this freedom because I've heard in some other podcasts that you've shared code switching.
Lord.
And not being free. And you say that I'm free now.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit more. Say more about that. What does that mean when you say I'm free?
Okay.
Free to be me.
I love it. Listen, this is no better place for me to be today. Okay. I grew up in the South, right, from the country. I learned how to code switch early by watching my mama talk to bill collectors on the phone. Got it. How she talked at the bank. How she talked to white people versus black people. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is how we have to navigate, right? You learn that early. And then when I started working myself, like in a call center, I remember getting like, I'd be on the phone, it'd be somebody from like upstate New York, they instantly would be like, oh, I don't want to talk to you. And I'd be like, oh. They'd be like, well, we can tell you, you're black in your country or you're ignorant. And I would be told, like, you got to kind of try to mask your accent even more. And I would be like, okay. And then when I started acting, my agents and the casting directors, they would say, you need to learn how to cover that because you're going to get typecast or people are just going to assume that you are not smart. Got it. And I believed it. I really did. And then I started to feel ashamed of being from the country. And I started thinking, I got to present myself in a different way to get successful, right? And so I started to conform, even from my hair. I remember I used to have locks, and I had locked my hair because then I was so deep, me and Chance, we got married, right? But you know, Troyce was the flower girl, so it won't no, you know, we gonna consummate the marriage after, you know. So I had decided, because he had long dreadlocks. So I said, ooh, I'm going to lock my hair, and that's how we're going to bond together. So I deep, honey, I was deep. And so I had these locks. And so my agent, I had gotten an agent in Greensboro, and she was like, no one wants to see a black woman on TV with their hair like that. And I said, oh, okay. So it took me about 3 or 4 days, and I stripped them out. And then I had this little curly, you know, Donna was curly back then, right? And I wore it like that for a little while, but I would, you know, have it pulled back a lot. But when I moved to LA, they were like, for your skin complexion, we need you to have your hair straight. So now I'm straightening my hair, not because I didn't like it, but because I thought I had to. They told me to. I'm covering my accent. I'm always on a diet trying to be a size 2. I'm doing everything to fit in, right? That's not freedom. Right, I'm living for everybody but Tab.
Except for you.
Right, on top of being a wife and a mama, and they all coming before me too. Right, that's just how I was living. And so when I got sick, I had my moment of being sick for a very long time, and I really thought God had forgotten about me. And I was praying, but I was habitually praying. And what that means is I was praying out of habit.
Yes.
But I wasn't really meaning what I was saying. I also thought, I'm so sick, ain't no way I'm going to get better. But I had this moment where I said, Lord, I want to try one last time to reach you in a way, and this is going to be my sacrifice. And so my prayer was, God, if you heal me, you can have me. And that meant I couldn't live my life my way no more. I had to live it the way he created me to live it. And that meant I had to start taking off layers. And so what I realized is every time I walked in a room and, you know, shifted my voice and, you know, walked different and talked different and all these things, I was living for everybody else. And also that's me telling God, you didn't do a good enough job on me.
Yeah, yep.
I got to create this tab. So I started taking these layers off. And I've been on what I call for the last 6 years my freedom walk. And that means, honey, now, when you start healing, the thing about healing is that you still get triggered. Right, so I can walk in a room. You know, I worked in corporate America, so I've been the only black woman in a room. I've been the only black person at a company many times, and that's triggering for me. So I can still sometimes, and I walk in a lot of rooms now,
you do.
just like this with this whole afro. Me and Donna be walking in there, and there don't be nobody that look like me. And for a moment, I have to check myself, and I say, Tab, girl, you supposed to be here, and you supposed to be here as you. And then I proceed, right? And that's what true freedom is. Freedom is understanding when you need to check yourself. Because a lot of times we won't check ourselves. We'll just continue on. But that's what it is for me.
How have you and your husband navigated? You've been married 20-some years?
We've been married 20, together 25.
Got it. I'm 35, together
All
40.
Right. Oh, love it.
I got married when I was 4, you know.
Right.
How old were you?
Yeah, it was an arranged thing.
Yes,
I understand.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
A lot has happened over the last few years, and there's a lot more people and a lot more attention in your life. How have you and your husband been able to navigate you and him time and the shift that has happened financially, relationally, people, and fame? How's that impacted your marriage, and how have you been able to keep that connection? Because we all see it on, you know, Fridays with Tab and Chance. You guys have this bond, and that's one question. And then you made a sentence I saw. You said, "My husband is my partner and not my provider." So can you talk about those two things?
Absolutely. That's my best friend, right? My husband. It comes first. Like, I'm grateful that I have this career and all this success that God has blessed me with, but that's the bonus. My husband, that's my foundation. Yeah. So they don't go together, right? It's the bonus that comes with it. I feel like God honors our marriage, and he has given me these dreams that I've had. All these things have happened, but that is first, right? And so we make sure that we have our time. And honey, when I ain't working, honey, Tab is at home in her pajamas on that couch with him, like we are real regular as they come. But we do things that are very normal for us and have always been, right? Like last night we was at the football game with my son at school, just doing things that we know we enjoy, that don't have nothing to do with nobody but us and our family, and keeping that our foundation always. That's the best way for us. right? And when I say my husband is my partner, not my provider, it's because he is. You know, for a very long time, he was the breadwinner, right? But I also always had a job, right? And then before he was the breadwinner, I was the breadwinner. When we lived in North Carolina, and when we first moved to LA, before he became a police officer, I made more money. But it was never like, oh, I make more money than you. It was like, honey, how much we got together? Honey, we partners in this. And then we're going to pay all these bills, and then what we got left, right? And we struggled together, right? And which means we get to reap the benefits of all the things together. And that's what true partnership is. It's not counting how much you got versus how much I got and weighing. It's like, how much do we have together?
Amen. Amen, amen, amen. You've mentioned a call center. I heard you mention Uber, Macy's.
Tabitha had some jobs.
Listen,
now.
I understand you will work.
I will.
You will work.
Yes, I will.
So what that tells me is there was a level of preparation that happened before, you know, the Whole Foods and the ambassadorship and all of that stuff jumped off. Can you talk a little bit about being prepared so that when the opportunity comes along, you are ready to take advantage of it? Because sometimes we're sitting at home waiting for the opportunity, but when it comes along, you haven't done the work.
Yeah. Ooh, girl, you preaching. You just said a word. I thought I was ready in my 20s, right? Was not. Okay. Thought I was ready in my early 30s, and I was not. I think I'm so grateful that things happened for me in my 40s, right? In this phase of my life, because living builds character, right? Yes. But it also prepares us. But the thing about a dream is I had been pursuing it and working at it for over 20 plus years, even though it wasn't happening. I worked while I waited. So see, the thing is if you prepare, people think that being prepared means you got to do X, Y, and Z. No, it means you have to be diligent and consistent in pursuing it so that when it happens, you already got some knowledge of it. Right? And so that was me. So when I was driving Uber and doing the videos, right, nobody was watching my videos like that. I would do my little everyday 5 o'clock cooking on Facebook, and it'd be like my family and friends. It'd be like 30 people. I'd be like, hey, y'all. Right, Karen, when you was on there, girl. And I was driving Uber, you know, and so I wasn't thinking that, you know, people were gonna watch my videos. But when I did that video and it went viral, within 4 days, Whole Foods reached out and said, oh, we would love to work with you. We saw your video. That's when the Tab, who is a trained actor and understand, like, oh, wait a minute, y'all want to use my video? Well, listen, I'm a trained actress. So I can do some commercials for y'all. Because now we can talk some language that I know. Now, I might not understand this branded stuff and the internet stuff, and I'm willing to learn that. But I can tell you what I do know, that y'all can't have this video without paying me.
That part.
Oh, because I know some stuff because I done lived a little bit, right? I didn't know how much to charge them. I didn't know that because I didn't know. I was thinking about, what I would make doing acting stuff. But then when I had found out, I said, oh, wait a minute, y'all owe Tab. But I learned.
You spoke about that as well when you first kind of got into that space and the level increased, that you went to some friends, and I heard you say they didn't help you. Yeah.
So when I first started doing these videos and they went viral, I didn't know what to charge.
I heard you say your husband didn't know what viral was.
Listen, we didn't. Yeah. When I went viral, I was like, "Damn, I think I'm going viral." He was like, "What that mean?" I said, "I don't know." You know? And he followed up with, "You gonna make some money?" I said, "I don't know." Right? We know now.
Yes,
but
we do.
I called a couple friends who I knew had been doing social media stuff, and they had been doing brand deals and all the things. And so when I was getting these offers, I was going by what the union would usually pay, but it is no union with social media stuff. And so I would call them. I said, "What should I charge?" They're asking me for this, and they'd be like, "Well, I don't really know what to tell you." I was like, "But don't you do it?" But nobody wanted to help me. And I was like, "Okay, Lord, I'm going to figure it out on my own then." And so I had one friend who was a producer, Stephen Love. Yes, Lord.
You know I'm Stephen's pastor.
Yes. And so Stephen was like, I said, "Stephen, listen, I'm going to need you to be my manager." He said, "Oh, no, Tabs, I'm a producer." I said, "Well, the Lord told me to start giving you 10%. And so whatever
I
we
want to
figured
thank you
out.
because he's a tither.
Okay, come on. Yeah. I said, so I'm going to give it to you, and we're going to figure it out because he's smart. I said, you
yes,
smart, you're going to figure it out. We'll figure it out together. And so he and I went on to, do 2 years of like so many, deals. And now, of course, we're back together, and now we just launched a media company together. So, but the same friends, I remember the same friends that did not help me. For a little bit, I kind of got upset about it. Like my feelings were hurt. Mm-hmm. But God was like, I need you to see how this works. He said, I need you to pay close attention. And those same friends now, they be reaching out. Mm-hmm. And guess what? I always help them.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I always help.
Because that's who you are.
Yeah, and I help strangers. Mm-hmm. I help anybody who doesn't know. If I have the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody, or every day I pray and I say, God, show me what I need to see, and I go in my inbox because it's so flooded, I can never see it all. But I'll choose. Mm-hmm. And if people are asking questions, I'm always gonna give them the answer. There's enough money in the world for everybody to make some. Yeah. And so now that's something that's very near and dear to me. But those people, they be knowing who they are. Yeah. And when I tell the story, sometimes they have been in the room, and I be like, ain't that something? All right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
We have time for one more question, and instead of me asking one, I want to ask you, what's the one question nobody asks you but you wish they would?
That question right there. I don't know. I don't really have a question. I don't necessarily desire to think for others.
Okay.
I'm so present, and I just be all right with whatever the conversation be. Even telling the same thing all the time, it's all right with me too.
Is there anything that you would want people to know
about me
in this space right now?
Well, in this space, I think it is necessary for people to know, like, I was always, for a very long time, very stuck, from working in jobs. I remember I had this season of work. I worked in a nursing home, and it was assisted living, and it was for Alzheimer's and dementia. Mm-hmm. And in that season, I worked the night shift purposely, and because I always wanted to be surrounded by spirit, right? It's very. I'm a weird soul. Okay, but that's my business.
But listen, that's your business.
And when I would work at this night shift, I would often be met with confirmation that nobody else could understand, right? And so, and it's hard to kind of explain, but your mom has dementia, right? Mm-hmm. So some days she may recognize you, some days she may not.
Right.
I worked in a place where nobody knew me. This was in Palmdale.
Okay.
And so I would go in there and have to reintroduce myself almost every day to people, and sometimes even introducing yourself, they don't know, who you are. But there would be nights where some people told me my mama's first and last name. They would tell me the favorite meal she used to cook for me. That is how I operate, right? So when I tell people that, a lot of times people kind of, shy away. But I live in that now. That's the thing that I am often wanting people to understand and know and have more conversations about. Because so many of us have the gift.
Yep.
But we're afraid of it, or we're afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing, if there's any, that I would always want to encourage people to know, like, that part of Tab. I walk in spirit a lot. Yeah. And so even sometimes, people see me, they be like, Tabby, she be smiling, but she be quiet, right? Because sometimes I'm seeing things in the room. Yeah. I remember my mom used to be the same, and the gift is passed down. And so just to be aware, may we all be aware of that. But yeah, I guess that would be.
That's good.
Really,
that's
really
good. That's
it.
Because that's important.
It is important.
Because it's you.
It is definitely
and it's
who
all
I am.
of you.
Yes.
Amen.
It is.
Thank you so very much for just being here. First of all,
Oh, thank you.
when you say you will talk to strangers, usually when I have people come to Unstuck, it's out of relationship. But I didn't know you. Of course, I knew Karen and Stephen.
Yes.
But when you said yes, not even knowing us or me or Hope's House, even though I think you may have been,
I have,
you've been
yeah.
to Hope's House because
Stephen invited me years ago.
and then Kevin,
Yep, I did his
you
show
were at
there.
you were filming there.
Yeah.
But I just want to tell you thank you for being here and being part of Unstuck, not knowing me and trusting your spirit to say yes to us and being able to bless our incredible audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tabitha Brown.
I love y'all. Thank you.